Welcome to the All About Pigeons podcast, brought to you by the All About Pigeons nonprofit organization, which is dedicated to promoting education and promotion of the pigeon hobby. Every week, a listener requests to drive our conversations about all things pigeons. Join me, Philip Fry, as we learn and share stories about these incredible birds and this ancient hobby. Today we're going to be talking about the French Mondain breed with Laura Mills, who's a longtime breeder, and learn more about this breed. So Laura, thanks so much for coming on and talking with us.
Well, thanks for having me, Phil. I appreciate it. I love your show. I listen to it every week.
Excellent. Thank you. So can we get a little bit of background on how you got into this breed?
I guess it goes back to I started with pigeons when I was about 5 years old. So that would have been 1975. The first pigeon flew onto the property, and I rescued it from our barn cats. My mom spent days trying to find the owner. The owner, of course, said they didn't want it back. When you look at pictures of it, we think it was a giant Homer, racing Homer cross, or maybe even a genuine Homer. But that was Pidge, the pigeon. So everybody kind of connected my mom with this man who was local in the area, and his name was Walter Schmeckpepper. And Walter had probably just about any breed you could imagine. And he had French Mondains. So I would go to his house every spring and he'd say, bring $12 and a box and a couple boxes. So I would do that. I'd give him the $12. He'd give me a pair of pigeons or two pairs. And then he'd say, now go in there and pick out what you want. And so I would pick out all different types, and French Mondains were the ones I kind of gravitated towards. I kept going with him all these years. When he passed away, his birds wound up, he had like 300 birds. They all wound up with me. So I went from 20 pigeons to 300 in an afternoon. And I was just a kid. I was like 12. But he was at the county fair and he encouraged me to show. Back then, there was a bunch of old guys in there. They didn't like some little girl in the barn, and I would get kicked out all the time. They were like, no, you got to leave. You got to leave. You can't be in here. So I never quit. I never gave up on it. They all left, passed away. Now I'm the superintendent of the pigeon show.
Nice.
And it's kind of funny because I'm one of the last that have remained, and now there's other exhibitors. But so that's kind of basically how I got into pigeons, and the French Mondains were in that during that time. And I've almost always, I don't think I've ever gone a time where I didn't have a French Mondain in my coop in some capacity.
Wow. Have you been able to keep that same family line going?
No, it got to the point I had only one of his left. I got him a hen, and that bird he was like 18 years old at the time, and I kept trying to get him to go, and I think he tried, and it's what probably took him out because he would winter with me in our house because we were renting in town. And and my birds were at my parents' farm at the time. And nobody in my family has pigeons. They all think I'm crazy. They give me a hard time about it. They have poultry, every other type of poultry. I have lots of others, but I am the only one with pigeons, and it is my passion.
Do you know much about the history of this breed, like what crosses went in or how it got here?
I did. I did some research actually, and Wendell Levi and the pigeon had a really lots of description about the Mondains, not just the French, but the Gros Mondain, the Swiss Mondain, all the different types of Mondains. And they are Italian and French in origin. They were considered ground pigeons, is what they called them. So they didn't fly, which they don't. They fly, but not well. There were various descriptions from different individuals as early as them being described in 1774.
Wow.
The Mondain's been around a very, very long time. There are two versions that are recognized for the French Mondain. There's the French Gros Mondain, and then there's the French Mondain. Now, the French Gros Mondain, that's what a lot of people, I think, in America think about with them. It's a small head, big body. They kind of look a little bit like a Texas Pioneer. It would be a close description of them. Where the ones that my passion is and that I'm kind of focused on is the French Mondain, no gross French, and that is a big head, big body. It's a utility pigeon. They all are utility. They would been considered more of a meat pigeon, is what they would have been. There's no description of the gross Mondain, but there were several of them at the Grand National. They're not in the standard, but there were some at the National. And then the French Mondains, there was only a few at the Grand National. It was mostly me. There was only a few of us there that had them entered. So they're starting to come back, but they were extremely popular at one point. In fact, the French Mondain Association had been established in 1929. The NPA National that year had 103 French Mondains exhibiting. So it was a big breed at one point, very popular. This past year, that's where I put there were 21 of them shown at the Grand National this last year in 2025. So it's changed, it's lost a lot of popularity. I think it's in the 80s and 90s is when it started to dwindle. And I just don't know why. Maybe the size. It is a big bird. It takes up space. As far as square footage, I would say, like in my loft, I usually count double for one of them versus like a smaller breed. That's kind of rough as far as the history, but yeah, they've developed over the years and they've been around for a long time.
So with it being a bigger bird and not really, you saying so they don't really fly that much either. Can you walk us through what your loft setup is like for this breed?
Sure. The loft itself, my loft, my loft is actually brand new. Last year we lost the loft in a tornado.
Ouch.
And we didn't lose a bird, which is the weirdest thing about it. Walls caved in, the roof was gone. They were really ticked off when I was pulling them out at 3 o'clock in the morning. They were soaking wet, but every bird survived. And so we built a new one. That loft was 14 by 68. The new loft is 24 by 72. It's a big loft. And in that loft, there's 10 8 by 10 coops is what I have. So those coops are in there. And the Frenches can go to the outside fly coops, which are off the ground they're kind of in the air is how I have it. Almost like a racing homer loft where you would trap them in. That's how my outside fly coops are. They're way up in the air. I do put usually a strip of pretty wide strip, maybe a foot wide of plywood down. It's kind of like a little ramp for them to walk up because the Frenches, they would rather walk than fly most of the time. That takes effort and they just don't want to do it.
Okay. And what climate would you say? I mean, what part of the country are you located in?
I live in Illinois, so the weather is all over the map.
You
I
get
mean,
everything.
yes. I mean, today they said the heat index sees is 106 right now. And we have high humidity and it'll drop into the other night it dropped into the 60s from being at almost 100. So the it varies. And our winters can be very hard too.
So what do you break down like the square space you're saying, being a larger bird like that? Like how much square foot space are you giving each bird?
I think they say, what is it, 1 square foot per bird? I give them at least two. I try to give them as much as I can because they are a bigger bird. But I also have other breeds in there. So I have Chinese owls in with my French Mondains and everybody gets along just fine. But it also then allows for me to have more birds because you could put a couple little ones in here, a couple bigger ones, and they get along fine.
So being a bigger bird, are there any issues with breeding and fertility?
Yes. The breeding, the biggest thing is that they don't have a lot of longevity as far as their breeding life cycle. I would say 5 or 6 years old, you're really pushing it as far as breeding. You can sometimes the hens will lay eggs, but it's more hit and miss at that point. The cockbirds, they get to the point where they just kind of lay around all day. They'll talk to the hens, but they'd rather not do anything about it. But when they are younger, I try right away. As soon as they're showing that they're ready, then I will try to breed them. I will take an inch off their tails so that when when to complete the breeding process, the tail doesn't interfere because it can. And I know a lot of other breeders do that for other breeds too. But the French is one that, yeah, you definitely need to. But other than that, I do open loft and I do cages. I bought they're extra large dog crates is what they are. And I will put them in there. If I get somebody who's a little too aggressive, I'll put them in there. Too territorial, they'll breed in there. But I do both. Right now I'm doing open loft because it's just so hot. I wouldn't want them in cages.
Oh yeah, just to keep them a little bit cooler in open space.
Correct. Yeah.
How are they when it comes to raising the young?
They're great. Like I said, they can be pretty territorial with their babies when those babies are getting close to hatching, they can be. But it's more of just stay away from my nest type thing. It's not hunt the other birds down and kill them, or pick them. But they are very good parents. I have never had them abandon them or anything. They've been very good. So more like a homer. They really are.
So let's talk a little bit about showing the breed and what kind of steps you go to when it comes to getting it ready for a show, prepping and conditioning and stuff like that.
The biggest thing is just cleanliness. You clean the vent, make sure that there's nothing there, clean the bands. The legs should be clean without feathers on them. So if there are any, I'll make sure there's no feathers between the toes, anything like that. I let them bathe a couple days before the show because they'll do it themselves. Keep watch for lice or anything. You want to make sure you get ahead of that one. I know we all experience that. And that's about it. They're easy as far as that's concerned. There's no frills where my son had English trumpeters, so that's a whole new ball of wax. And then the other one had Indian fantails, and prepping those is completely different than, French's, you pretty much put them in a cage. You're good to go.
What are you doing for like the bugs and lice control?
I use the Adams spray is what I use. I let them bathe and I'll put that 20 mule team stuff that everybody's used over the years. I put that in the bath water or I'll get something from like Pigeon Supply Plus or Foy's and just to put in the bath water to kind of monitor that. I know a lot of other people are trying different things. Right now, I'm just using the Adams spray. And when I vaccinate, they get sprayed and then right before a show, just more as a precaution to make sure that they don't have anything.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and because with that Adams spray, you're spraying the bird directly, right?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How long does that like really stay on the bird and last, or how often are you doing that?
Um, it doesn't last long. The minute they take a bath, it's gone.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's more of just monitoring the birds. They don't have anything. There's no reason to do it. But going to the shows, the prep is I always spray, make sure nobody has anything. And then coming home from a show, I spray because they could pick up something at a show easily.
Do you give any sort of supplements before or after a show?
I will, what is it, Pigeon Builder, I will give them in their water sometimes during the show. I also usually use apple cider vinegar during the week. I like using that. Red Cell, I'll put that in the water. It's just the basic stuff. I also use the Castle vitamins and the Avio vitamins with oil on their feed. So I kind of rotate those every other week, a different type. Because I know you interviewed Castle,
Right.
and yeah, and I have been using his product for a long time. I use those. And I've noticed the feathering is very soft. It does make a big difference as far as that's using those vitamins.
And talking more about the show, can you give us a breakdown of how the points score on these birds?
Sure, the French Mondain is considered a form pigeon. So the head is 15 points, the neck and the throat area would be 5, the back 10, the tail 10, wings and shoulders 10, the legs and the toes would be 10, the feathers 5, the breast would be 5. The length of the keel is a big one for 10 points, and then there's a few others for 5, and then their weight is important because they are utility breeds, so you want them in good, condition. But yeah, that's the breakdown of it. I don't know if it'll remain the same if the breeders keep going and they want to revise it, but I suspect it'll stay the same. The bird hasn't changed in years, so
That could be a good thing too. Sometimes
yeah.
it's strange when you look back at how much a standard has really changed a bird. And when you're going to the shows and you're seeing these birds, are there any kind of common faults or anything that you think that the breed really needs to be working on?
Um, the head is the biggest thing. That's your biggest points. So you really want to watch that. You don't want the creases. You want a good short beak. That's my biggest fault is my beaks get to be too long. I know that that's my fault, and I've been trying to breed it out for a shorter beak, and it's just, it takes time. You want to, I mean, basically you want a powerful bird. That's what you want. In, you want good feathering too, because you could look at some of the other breeds and other utility breeds and their feathering isn't as good, but a French's usually is. It looks nice, fine, reformed breed. It's not just, a utility looking meat bird. They want it nice too. So, but other than that, as far as there aren't many of us showing, so there isn't a lot of faults to find because there aren't birds out there.
You were talking about the different types that there's the gross and the French, and can you talk about some of the different colors and patterns that you're getting? And are there only limited to the different types that come in this?
No, they would be reds, blues, opals, browns. They're pretty much most of the same colors that the other breeds, typical colors that you would see, red bars, blue bars. I have solids, I have a yellow, black, the brown. They really have a multitude of colors. And it's more of looking at like their toenails need to be the right colors. And like the flights cannot be white on a blue check. It has to be a blue check. And otherwise it would be considered in any other color. So yeah, it's like other breeds, the color variations, and if there's, certain things in there, then it would be considered any other color.
Are there any specific books to this breed or any other types of resources that you would think would be helpful for breeders?
I wish, because I
No?
would love to get my hands on it.
Really?
I think the Pigeon by Wendell Levi was the probably one of the best resources as far as looking at history, where they come from, and things like that. But as far as modern, no, there just isn't. That at least that I've found. I know a lot of the guys have been posting on Facebook some old things from the American Pigeon Journal and the breakdown of the birds on there, which is great. But it's, the stuff is 30, 40, 50 years old, but the standard still holds true. That's the other side, is that look and everything about the bird still holds true.
Yeah.
I wish there was a book because boy, I'd love to have it.
Well, you better get working on writing one.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's ever been has there been any recent purebred pigeon articles on that breed?
No, it would be great. Maybe at some point if we can get going as far as the club itself to get the membership up, maybe that would be a definite goal to aim for, to have everybody put something in the purebred pigeon. It would be great to have an issue about the Frenches.
So let's talk about that a little bit. So you're working on getting the national club started up again. How did that get going, and how is it going currently?
So far, really good. We're lined up to go to the Oklahoma Futurity with the Giant Homers. The French Mondain Club's going to be there. We've already started talking as far as numbers and how many of us will be going to that. We'll be at the Grand National, the National Young Bird Show, Des Moines, and possibly Wisconsin, Watertown, Wisconsin. There's a show up there. But a lot of the interest has been more south is where it's at. But I'm being north. I know the people who are up here up north that have the birds, and they would come to the northern ones. So my plan has been kind of to just do as much as I can do north and south to get as many people on board and showing.
You're literally kind of starting this club back up from scratch, right? I mean, it was totally done.
It was totally done. A
Okay.
couple years ago, it was going, and the person in charge of it got out of them.
hmm
And so there was nothing left. We can't even get any of the old information. I've tried. And it's kind of sad, but things happen and people have to, make choices. So the unfortunate part was the club. So we're just starting off new is what we're doing. My husband, I made him secretary. He doesn't even own a pigeon, but I made him I said, "You're secretary, start writing." And some of the other breeders are, doing a lot of the work too. So I'm looking forward to the shows to see the other birds out there, other than my own and one or two others. It'd be nice to see other breeders' birds to see where we're all at because we just don't know.
I mean, it sounds like you got a pretty big list that shows that you guys are going to be attending. So, I mean, that's a good way to get
Mhm.
out there and see what's really going on with that breed.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
bringing some more
Exactly.
together, hopefully around it too. I mean, that's anytime a breed can get a club behind it, that breed automatically does better and kind of has a future looking forward. So that's really good that you got that started. And so you have a Facebook group too. What's the name of the Facebook group?
The National French Mondain Club.
Okay. I don't know, you guys have any plans for start any website or anything like that for it as well?
We do. It's in its infancy stage. We're just getting that going. I'm getting some help from one of the NPA directors.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
and he's been getting going on that. So I wanted to let the club go for a year and kind of see how things go and then bring in the website maybe halfway through to be able to do that. And for paying dues too, it would be nice to do it online for people, you
Yeah,
know.
that's easier, especially for a national club if they can't meet you at a show or something.
Yeah, it's always tough. Yeah. And I know myself when I was looking for the other breeds, that's the first place I went is look for websites. So it's important to have that.
Absolutely. Well, if anybody's interested in learning more about this breed or checking out that national club, they got a Facebook group, so go check them out there. It's the National Mondain. Is it French Mondain? I'm sorry, is it National Mondain?
French Mondain. Yeah,
National
National
French
French
Mondain
Mondain Club.
Club. Check them out there on Facebook. And Laura, this has been a lot of fun. Thanks so much for coming on and talking about this breed with us today.
Absolutely, Phil. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to another ad-free, listener-requested episode of the All About Pigeons podcast. If you like the show and want to help us keep it going, as well as supporting our other pigeon promotional work, head over to our website at pigeonpod, that's pigeonpod.com, and make a donation. We are a non-profit public charity, so once you've made your donation, you'll receive an email with a tax-deductible receipt. If you can't donate today, please help us out by leaving us a 5-star review wherever you listen. Any episode requests, upcoming pigeon shows, competition results, or you just want to send a shout out for a club or a friend to be read on air, just email it over to staff@pigeonpod.com. And make sure to check out the one-of-a-kind pigeon t-shirts, hats, and other swag at our website, pigeonpod.com. Thanks again for listening, and remember, together the hobby thrives. Support each other and enjoy your pigeons.